Weapons is the latest horror, thriller, comedy, mystery from Zach Cregger. It is one of the most bold and engrossing films I've seen all year. His 2022 film Barbarian is one of the best modern horror films out there, and even if you watched it with a comically large baseball glove, you still wouldn't be able to catch all the curveballs it throws at you. It's a masterclass in subverting expectations without alienating the viewer. It's also packed with some hilarious moments that never derail the tone, and like the basement in that film, it just keeps getting darker, weirder, and windier the further it goes. I highly recommend checking that film out if you haven't, but now we have Weapons. A film that I approached with unrealistic levels of hype, if I'm honest, but I'm pleased to say it more than delivers and, dare I say, improves on a lot of the elements from Barbarian. It's a film that feels bigger, creepier, and dipped in a much darker mystery. It has a more mature tone, but somehow is also funnier than Barbarian was. And it does need to be said, it's going to sound like I'm praising conflicting elements here, because on paper, a lot of this film's components should be at odds with each other, but everything here just works. There is very little to criticize in this film from my eyes. Some elements are stronger than others, but when it all works, it creates such an unnerving and exciting momentum that feels fresh and unique. Because I don't want to spoil any of the surprises in this, I'm going to read you the synopsis straight from IMDb. When all but one child from the same class mysteriously vanishes on the same night at exactly the same time, a community is left questioning who or what is behind their disappearance. And that is wonderfully vague. And this film's plot is delivered through a series of chapters that focus on different characters, deepening the mystery and peeling back the layers of the plot as it shifts through each perspective. It's as non-linear as it gets, but what I love about this and Barbarian is they are both films that focus on characters first and plot second. We dive into the lives of different characters and how they have been affected by the events at the start of the film. And the actual plot of the film ends up feeling uniquely circumstantial based around their actions. It's almost a day in the life film, and films with this kind of structure can feel overly orchestrated, but this doesn't. Our characters and perspectives end up becoming intertwined through a very organic tension and unease, and I loved that. This world felt so alive to me, and the characters talk and act in ways that, despite some of the more shocking and humorous moments in this film, it all feels surprisingly believable and real. Zach Cregger has spoken himself about how he was influenced by Paul Thomas Anderson's Magnolia. Magnolia for many years has been one of my favorite films, and maybe even my favorite film of all time. It's an astonishing collage of cross paths and interwoven fates. And how the plot develops in Weapons feels very reminiscent of that film, but there are so many other styles at play here. I've seen so many people feel the different influences in this film, some mentioned by Zach Cregger himself. I've seen Pulp Fiction mentioned, Prisoners mentioned, Twin Peaks. There are moments that feel straight out of the Kubrick playbook here, particularly The Shining. To me though, there is something very Lynchian about this film. I felt most connected to Blue Velvet when watching this, and the idea of the hidden horrors in the shadows of a quaint suburbia, the bleeding anger, grief and torment that is hiding below that freshly mown lawn. Zach Cregger is a director that really invites you to peer into the darkness, and I've never been quite so unsure of what may emerge. No one does a basement scare like this man. This film really does offer up some quite daunting and chilling moments. There are jump scares in here, good ones I might add. The poor guy sat next to me increased his breathing rather dramatically every time the music dipped out for a moment, and during one scare I think I saw his soul slingshot around the room. The film has an astonishing ability to hold you in a suspenseful moment, throw you a couple of jokes to lower your guard, and then suddenly grab you by the throat. I certainly didn't sleep as well as I hoped I would last night after watching this. Because of its slightly comedic undertones, I assumed it's a film that wouldn't follow me home, but it did, and I unfortunately woke up around 2 a.m. this morning, and when you watch this film you will realize why that's a bit of a problem. It really has been a long time since I've seen such haunting and bold imagery like this. The opening scenes of these kids running arms stretched down a dimly lit suburban street is pretty powerful stuff. It's very striking, and there is something about children in horror films that can feel so creepy and disturbing, and in this film just their blank expressionless faces feel like their innocence audience has been stolen. I won't talk in detail about the central mystery, but I have seen some complaints that it felt unfulfilling and unanswered, and my response to that is it was never really about the mystery for me. Like I said earlier in the reviews, this film is about these characters that happen to be caught up in something. I was less interested in where the plot was going as opposed to how much danger these characters were in. I cared about them, and because of that, I loved the ending, an ending that has some of the best camera work in the whole film. And to touch on the cinematography for a moment, it's a gorgeously shot film with a lot of flair and variety in its shot list that adds so much more intrigue to certain scenes. This film has some of the best establishing shots I've seen in a film in a long time. It's edited very well, knowing when to cut from a crescendo and leave you in the dark. The atmosphere bleeds from scene to scene with great momentum, and that's partly due to its stellar soundtrack. It's got a score that is a concoction of so many sounds colliding. In one moment it feels like creaking floorboards, the next like a winding of a clock that is counting down to something. There are beating drums that in the same moment sound like a gentle heartbeat but also impending doom. It's one of my favorite scores of the year so far, and it does so much for this film. And finally, I can't end this video without mentioning the cast, all of whom give great performances. It's hard to single anyone out. They all play their roles so well in this mystery. I think Julia Garner offers a kind of vulnerability that felt particularly real, but ultimately, Weapons is a film that makes you feel like you are trapped in a maze and something is following you. It's an audacious experience filled with a shocking amount of unpredictability. A film I highly recommend seeing in IMAX if you can. Seeing this with an audience adds a lot actually. Nervous laughter followed by screams never really gets old. I think it's an exceptional thriller that takes its time with its characters but is ready to deliver a gut punch and submerge you in some great horror at any moment. I cannot recommend it enough, and it's a 9 out of 10 from me. And that's about all I have to say. Please do consider subscribing. Let me know what you thought of the film in the comments. And all that's left to do now is to thank you very much for watching.